The What to Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Maine interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to What to Next podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am Catherine. You can't see me right now, but I am here with my dog, Rowan, who, if you hear creating a ruckus in the background, that's him because he's a little troublemaker. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I write small town romance with a little edge of suspense. And I think that love of suspense comes because I am a huge true crime addict. I love true crime podcasts and the occasional documentary. So that is kind of me.
So how did you get it started with the true crime? Was it Serial or was it Dateline or Investigation Discovery?
I think Serial was my first real true crime podcast. And then I went on from that to a show called Up and Vanished. Their season 1 is just incredible. I loved it so much. And I just have gone down the rabbit hole since then.
I love this. Because I can see that, your passion for true crime in your books. Like I read, these small towns have the crime rate. It's just
crazy stuff going on.
I'm like, what is happening? Kidnapping.
I know. You think safety in a small town, but not in my small town.
No. So what led you to start writing? What was what was the start?
So I've always been a huge reader. I know probably every author on your show says that, but since I was little, I've been just gobbling up books. And I, maybe 10 years ago now, I took a bad fall off a horse and really hurt my back. And so I was reading a ton of books during that time. That was kind of like my refuge. I went through a few hard things in my personal life. I lost my dad, ended a relationship, and romance books really were kind of my refuge. I really escaped into them during that time and just fell in love with the genre. And as I was kind of recovering from that fall injury, I decided, I wasn't working at the time. So I was like, I am going to write a book. I was like, even if it's just one, that's fine, but I want to try. So I made myself promise I would finish. So I did. And I just fell in love with the process. That was it for me. I loved creating a fictional world. And it kind of took, 2 or 3 books for me to really find my voice, find my niche. But I just have loved it so much.
My gosh, I love this. And I loved your books. And, it's there's something to be said about small town. I've never lived in a small town. I've always lived in big cities, but it's there's this sense of finding that niche of small town love, all the world you get to create because it's not a lived in space.
Yeah. And I live in a small town now. It only has about 2,000 people, 2,000, 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun for me to kind of base the feel off of that. They're all different from my exact town, but I pull from the feeling of knowing what it's like to move through this space. And it's really fun because it kind of heightens the stakes because everything is smaller, so people know each other. You get, gossip, you get rumors, you get, people that know secrets about each other. And I love that in a book.
Yeah, I love it. I actually love the fact that it's a cozy feeling, but the viewers are an edge of suspense. So there's kidnapping or stalker. And I'm like,
I know. You're going to have this really cute secondary character and cute animals. And then you're going to have a stalker or a murderer.
Yeah. And you're just trying to figure out, cold. There was the proper cold. So.
Yes, exactly.
It's just a little bit, it gives you the edge. It's a little edgy. All right. So we got to talk about your latest series, which is Echoes of You, is the second book in the series. But the first book in the series starts with a bang. It starts with a prologue that people are talking about it. I think Samantha Young came and talked about your prologue of that first book. And she's like,
love that.
Just got me at the edge of my seat. So give us a taste of what to expect from this series.
So I had an idea for a prologue. A lot of the ideas for my book start with something for a prologue. I kind of am known for putting you through it a little bit in that first chapter. I think it really like hooks you into the story, and it's always where the story kind of begins for me. And it's how I get to know the characters and kind of the setup. So in Whispers of You, it really is kind of an edge of your seat. Like it starts out really sweet, it ends really suspenseful, and you don't really know, what's happening. And there is a real moment where you're wondering, if this character we just met, if they're going to be in the rest of the book or not. And you don't really know until you get to the next chapter. So I love doing that. It's so fun, but I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever had as strong of a reaction for a prologue as I did for Whispers of You. I've gotten so many messages, so many tags, and it's really fun because I think there are a lot of readers who think, oh, I don't really love romantic suspense. But then they will try one of my books and they're like, oh, I am like super into this. It's just, and I always say I classify my books as like suspenseful romance because the focus is always on the couple for me. Like that's what I love about a story is, two people falling in love, overcoming all of these obstacles to be together. But I think the suspense just kind of raises the stakes for the couple along the way. Mm-hmm. And so I really enjoy that.
I love this. And so speaking of the Whispers of You, because of You, like talk to us about some of your backlist titles, like which ones after we finish these two books, because we're going to be waiting for the rest of the series, what other series should we look for going backwards?
So Whispers of You and Echoes of You are part of the Lost and Found series, and that follows 5 siblings. We get each of the siblings' books, which this has been my first true family series, which has been really fun. It's been fun to kind of develop those siblings characters and explore their banter, but we do see the hero from book 1. We see him a couple of times in my Tattered and Torn series, which starts with Tattered Stars. He just pops up. He's mentioned in a couple of books, and he actually shows up in the last book in that series. And that would be where I would tell people to go after. I would say go back to Tattered Stars, work your way through that series. I am always someone who likes to start usually with an author's newer stuff, Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but so I'm always working backwards. So when people ask where to start, I always tell them Tattered Stars or Whispers of You. I think those are two great places. And Tattered and Torn is like a family and like found family group of friends as well. And it kind of surrounds a kidnapping that happened in the past and the ramifications of that within a family, within a community. And we kind of see how this kidnapping affected all these different people and really affected a town in general. So it was a really fun series to write. Again, I had this idea for a prologue, and that's what started the whole series for me.
It is a good prologue because I've been reading that series. That's been keeping me company. Like I'm savoring it, and it's like I want to get to Shiloh's book, but I'm like, no, not yet.
I know people were real mad when I held Shiloh until the end.
Yeah, but I'm like, it makes sense because we gotta see her character growth.
Exactly.
So awesome. So, what kind of books do you recommend our listeners to pick up?
So I typically read a lot of suspenseful books, or I also really love paranormal books too. Mm-hmm. Those are another favorite of mine. But some of my very favorites are another one that's coming out actually the same day as Echoes of You is Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young. I just got to read an arc of this. It's absolutely incredible. The hero is honestly one of my favorites, like in fiction. She does such a beautiful job of creating these like very like broody alpha guys, but they have such depth and we really get to see like the inner struggle. And she just writes so beautifully. This book is incredible. Grumpy Sunshine, like just everything you want in a story. He's a bodyguard, like, oh, sign me up. So I loved that one. I also always recommend Little Lies by Helena Hunting. Mm-hmm. It is one of my favorite books. I discovered it last year and just was obsessed. Like she probably like is about to get a restraining order from me because of how much I fangirled over this book with her. I'm like, anytime someone's asking for a recommendation, I'm like, have you read Little Lies? Because it's incredible. So I love that one. And then another one I always recommend is Where the Blame Lies by Mia Sheridan. It's just a book that has stuck with me years later after reading it. I still think about that book sometimes. She does such a beautiful job with creating these beautifully broken characters and these jaw-dropping plot twists, and just something that makes you think about life as you're reading it. And it's just stunning. So those would be 3 of my recommendations.
I'm bumping up Little Lies for sure because I did read the book series.
The audio is fabulous too.
Oh my God. I think I have the audiobook because you can buy it. Like it's a really cheap audiobook that you can get add-on.
Yeah. You can add it on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I already own the audiobook. So I think I'm going to bump
do the
it up.
audio. I'm going to check up with you and make sure you did it.
I will. I'm bumping it up. It's going to keep me company at night.
Yay. I'm so glad.
Awesome. So Catherine, tell us where you can find you online.
So you can find me at Catherine Cowles Author on Instagram. I hang out a lot over there. The other place I am a lot of the time is my reader group on Facebook, which is Catherine Cowles Reader Group. I also have a Facebook page under the same handle. I'm on TikTok. I'm trying to think if there's really anywhere else. I don't think so. Goodreads always. I try and pop over there occasionally, but I think that's it.
This is so good. So thank you, Catherine, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. For a list of books mentioned and other book recommendations, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com. Thank you so much for listening and happy reading.